it's working. All right, here we go. Pada Kamala Kuti Chandra Shishi Dana Yechaya Jagajurai Aino Nite Bene Pai Krishna Pai Nai Trinakori Daro Nitaya Pai Say Sambana Nahi Janga Attention Maki Lotai Say Pashu Baru Durajara Say Sambana Nahi Janga Attention Maki Lotai Shubaro Durachara Nitaina Murino Muge Achila Samsara Suge Vijakole Kikore Bedura Dina Bonito Bouquet She looks some side of Suke Vijakule Kikore Vedara Agarapatoya Travaramasha Riya Asachere Sachakuri Mani Ahakari Matoi Alga Chaivana Pasha Riya Asachire Sachakuri Mani Nichaya Kuruna Uribe Krishna Boy Bay Narunitai Jarana Tukani Nichaya Kuruna Boy Bay Narana Krishna Boy Bay Narunitai Jarana Tukani Nitaya Chorana Sacha Tahara Sivaka Nicha Nitaya Pada Satakuru Asha Nitaya Chorana Sacha Tahara Sivaka Nicha Nitaya Pada Sadakuru Asha Narotama Morotuki Itai More Korasuki Nakurana Charanira Sha Narotama Morotuki Nakuranga Charanira Asha Nitae Panakamala Kuti Chanda Shuchitara Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaiko, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Paramahanacharya, Om Suteta, Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Machuranam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamaya Ki Jai Shimani Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shi Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarni. Okay, here's the translation. In this material world which is progressing towards hell, there's always a blazing fire. And everyone is struggling hard without finding peace. Therefore, if the world wants to have real peace, it should take shelter under the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, which are cooling like the shining of millions of moons. Unless one takes shelter under the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, it will be very difficult to approach Radha Krishna. Anyone who does not establish their relationship with Lord Nityananda is simply spoiling their boon of a human birth in the animal propensities of sense gratification. Never saying the names of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, they become absorbed in so-called material enjoyment, and their academic education and birth in a high family or great nation will not protect them at the time of death. They have become maddened by the false concept of bodily life, and thus they have forgotten their eternal relationship with Lord Nityananda. Such forgetful persons accept the illusory energy as factual. When you achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda, then you will be able to approach Radha Krishna. Firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are not illusion, they are a fact, and anyone who engages in the transcendental loving service of Lord Nityananda immediately achieves their transcendental position on the spiritual platform, which is eternal and blissful. Therefore, always try to catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Narottam Das Thakur says, "My dear Lord Nityananda, I am very unhappy, so I am praying to you to make me happy. Please keep me in a corner of your lotus feet." Lord Nityananda Ki Jai, Narottam Das Thakur Ki Jai. So we're going to continue with our study of the Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur, I was in the Lord Chaitanya Das Thakur, Vrindavan Das Thakur. And we're in a very interesting part of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Of course, I always say that before the class. And this part, we find Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teacher, Gangadas Pandit, is getting ready to correct Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How is he getting ready to correct Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and why? Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's students, who came to him to study grammar and rhetoric and all those other interesting subject matters, I'm speaking facetiously, of course, they were complaining to Lord Chaitanya's teacher because Lord Chaitanya was simply teaching everything in terms of the holy name. There's only one rule in grammar, and that rule is chant Hare Krishna. That was basically it. And the student said, we're not learning anything, and we don't even understand what he's saying. So they went to Gangadas Pandit, and they complained, and here's the result when Lord Chaitanya goes to see him with his students. Okay, so now we will share the screen. So Om Ganatimirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, here we go. Let's share the screen. There we go. We are on text 270. Let's get this window set. Oh, I'm trying to set the, there we go. Trying to set up all my windows at the beginning. Here we go. So, text 270. All the students happily returned to their homes, and in the afternoon, they came with Vishwambar to the house of Gangadas Pandit. They're thinking, Vishwambar is going to get corrected now. Let's hear what happens. The Lord took the dust from the feet of his guru, and his guru blessed him, saying, may you attain knowledge. The Lord's teacher said, my dear Vishwambar, please hear my words. The studying of a Brahmana is not the result of being less fortunate. Your maternal grandfather is Nilamba Chakravarti, and your father is Jagannath Mishra Purandara. There are no fools in either your maternal or paternal families, and you yourself are most qualified to explain the commentaries. If by giving up studies one becomes a devotee, then were your father and grandfather not devotees? Remembering all this, practice your lessons properly. And it's chastising Lord Chaitanya. Only through a proper study can one become a Vaishnava Brahmana, which is actually not true. One becomes a Vaishnava Brahmana by association. How will an ignorant twice-born know what is proper and what is not? Knowing this, you should chant the name of Krishna and concentrate on your studies. Chastisement by the Guru. Go now, but promise me that you will teach the scriptures properly without any different meanings. The Lord said, by the mercy of your feet, no one in Navadvip can stand before me in debate. Who in Navadvip can refute my explanations of the sutras? I will teach publicly in the middle of the city. Let me see who has the power to challenge me. So instead of changing his methodology of teaching, he's going to show it to be the most effective and most Siddhantic methodology of preaching. Gangadas became pleased in hearing these words of the Lord, who then offered respects at his guru's feet and departed. I offer my humble obeisances at the feet of Gangadas Pandit, whose disciple is the Lord of the Vedas and master of the goddess of learning. What else is there to be attained by Gangadas Pandit, whose student is worshipped throughout the 14 worlds? As Lord Vishwambar walked along with the students, he appeared like a full moon surrounded by the stars. he whose lotus feet are kept on the heart of Lakshmi, came and sat on the doorstep of a local resident's house, wearing his cloth like a sannyasi. That means without a kacha, with a fold in the back. The Lord repeatedly established and refuted sutras. The Lord said, in Kali Yuga, one who does not have any knowledge about the conjunction of words is awarded the title of Bhattacharya, and one who has no knowledge of grammar is engaged in explaining logic. But none of them can defeat me. Who can challenge the way I refute and reestablish a sutra? In this way, Vishwambara, the Lord of the universe, spoke. Who was the power to answer his challenge? The pride of those teachers who heard such words as they passed by on their way to take bath in the Ganges was smashed to pieces. Who in Navadvip had the power to establish a conclusion before Vishwambara? In this way, Vishwambara was absorbed in ecstasy as he continued to give his explanations well into the night. By providence, one most fortunate Brahmana was sitting at the doorstep of a nearby house. He was well known by the name Ratnagarbha Acharya, and he was a friend of the Lord's father, being born in the same village. His three sons, Krishna, Nanda, Jiva, and Yadunath Kavichandra, were like bees at the lotus feet of Krishna. That topmost Brahmin had the highest respect for the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he would recite the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam with great affection. As he devotedly recited the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam with great satisfaction, the sound of his recitation entered the ears of the Lord. When the Lord heard that glorification of devotional service, he lost external consciousness and fell to the ground. All the Lord's students became struck with wonder. Shortly thereafter, the Lord regained his external consciousness. Upon regaining consciousness, Vishwambara repeatedly exclaimed, "Go on reciting," as he rolled on the ground. The Lord said, "Chant, chant," and the pious Brahmin continued reciting. Thus an enchanting ocean of happiness and Krishna consciousness manifest. The earth became soaked with the tears of the Lord, who manifest ecstatic symptoms like tears, shivering, and hair standing on end. When the pious Brahmin saw the Lord's great happiness, he recited the verses with increased devotion. Seeing his devoted recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord became pleased and embraced him. Being embraced by the Lord of Vaikuntha, Ratnagarbha became filled with love of God. Ratnagarbha wept aloud as he clasped the Lord's feet. Thus the Brahmana was ensnared in the network of Lord Chaitanya's love. As the Brahmana repeatedly recited verses with love and devotion, the Lord loudly exclaimed, "Go on reciting, go on reciting." On seeing this, the local inhabitants were struck with wonder and offered their respectful obeisances. Then Gadadhar said, "Do not recite any more," and everyone sat around Lord Vishwambara. After a short time, Lord Gauranga regained his external consciousness and inquired, "What did you say? What did you say?" The Lord asked, "Have I been restless?" The students replied, "Your actions are glorious." "What power do we have to explain your activities?" The Lord's intimate associates intervened. "Don't indulge in praising him." Upon regaining his consciousness, Vishwambara restrained himself. Thereafter he went with his associates to see the Ganges. He offered obeisances to the Ganges and sprinkled water on his head. Then he sat down on the bank of the Ganges with his associates. Just as the son of Maharaj Nanda enjoyed various sporting activities on the bank of the Yamuna, while surrounded by the cowherd boys, the son of Shachi enjoyed discussing topics of Krishna on the bank of the Ganges, surrounded by his devotees. After some time, Vishwambara sent everyone home and then returned to his home. There the Lord of the entire universe took his meal and glanced towards Yoga Nidra. After the night passed, all the students came and sat down with their books to study. The Lord quickly returned from his bath in the Ganges and after taking his seat began to explain the texts. The Lord's explanations did not deal with anything that was not related to Krishna. He explained every word in relationship to Krishna's devotional service. The students inquired, "What is the definition of dhatu, or the verbal root?" The Lord replied, "That which is called Krishna's energy." Oh, brothers, listen as I explain the aphorisms about dhatus. I would like to see who has the power to refute my explanation. All the kings we have seen had luxurious bodies decorated with gold and beautified with fragrant sandalwood paste. Although their words determine a person's prosperity or death, hear what happens to them when their dhatu leaves their bodies. Let me use life air. No one knows where the beauty of their bodily limbs goes, as some bodies are burned and some are buried. The energy of Krishna dwells in the body of every living entity as their dhatu or active principle. All affection and devotion is meant for him alone. Because of illusion, teachers cannot understand this. Yet consider carefully whether I am right or wrong. There are persons to whom we now offer obeisances and respects, but when the active principle leaves their bodies, we must take bath after touching them. The son who was happily nourished on the lap of his father touches the fire of cremation to the mouth of his father after the active principle leaves him. That which is called dhatu is the power of Krishna, the beloved of all. Is there anyone who can deny this? So, of course, the students were asking about verbal roots, and Lord Chaitanya was describing the direct spiritual meaning of the word dhatu. Oh, brothers, please render unflinching devotional service unto Krishna, whose energy is most pure and worshipable. Chant the name of Krishna, worship Krishna, and hear the name of Krishna. Day and night meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. Good instructions. Anyone who offers a little water or durva grass at the lotus feet of the Lord is never subjected to the punishment of Yamaraj. Worship the lotus feet of Nandanandana, who delivered Aghasura, Bakasura, and Putana. By remembering that holy name was not really of his son, Ajamil attained Vaikuntha. Therefore, worship the lotus feet of Krishna. While serving his lotus feet, Shiva goes about naked. The service of those lotus feet is desired by Lakshmi. Take straw between your teeth and worship Krishna, whose lotus feet are glorified by Lord Ananta. As long as there is life and strength in your body, you should render devotional service to the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna is your mother, Krishna is your father, Krishna is your life and wealth. I fall at your feet and beg you to engage your minds in thinking of Krishna. In the mood of a servant, the Lord continually narrated his own glories until half of the day had passed. The charmed students heard the Lord's explanation with rapt attention. None of them dared to open their mouths. Know for certain that they are all eternal servants of Krishna. When Krishna himself is teaching them, how can they be anyone else? After a while, Vishwambara manifested his external consciousness. He felt ashamed by looking at everyone's face there. The Lord asked, how was my explanation of the sutras on dhatus? The students replied, your explanation was correct. There is no one arrogant enough to deny the meaning of every word that you have explained. Whatever you explained is perfectly true, but the aim for which we study is different. The Lord said, would you explain to me everything I said? Perhaps I have been overwhelmed by a disorder of the nerves. What import of the sutras did I explain? The students replied, you've explained the name of Hari in all of them. You've explained that Krishna alone is the meaning of the sutras, the brief explanations, and the commentaries. But who is qualified to understand your explanations? By the transformations you undergo while hearing about devotional service, one can never consider you an ordinary human being. The Lord said, in what form do you regard me? The students replied, as the perfection of all excellence. We have never before seen the tears of love, the shivering, and the hairs standing on end that you manifest. When you were teaching us yesterday in the town, a pious Brahmin recited one verse. On hearing that verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, you fell unconscious. We were amazed to see that there were no symptoms of life visible in your body. The way you cried after regaining consciousness, it appeared that the goddess Ganga had manifested there. When you eventually started shivering, even 100 persons were unable to hold you still. The hairs of your entire body stood on end, and your golden form was smeared with sweat, saliva, and dust. Everyone who saw you was struck with wonder and said, "This person is Narayan himself." Someone said, "The mercy he has received is comparable to that received by Vyasadeva, Shukadev, Narada, and Prahlad." Then, with all their strength, they all held you still, and shortly after, you regained external consciousness. You do not know all these incidents. Now, please hear attentively what we have to say. Since the past 10 days, you've explained that devotional service to Krishna and the holy name of Krishna is the meaning of every word of Shastra. For the last 10 days, our studies have been held up, and we were afraid to inform you of this. You know the unlimited meanings of every word. Who has the power to contradict even your light-hearted comments? The Lord said, "Your studies have been held up for 10 days. Shouldn't you have informed me of this?" The students replied, "Your explanations were correct. The purport of all scriptures is that Krishna is the absolute truth. This is real study of the essence of all scriptures, and it is our fault if we do not accept it. Whatever you have explained is fundamental truth and the only knowledge worthy of the name. It is due to our own misdeeds that we do not accept it." The Lord was pleased on hearing the students' words. Out of compassion, he began to speak as follows. The Lord said, "My dear brothers, whatever you have said is true, but do not tell anyone what I have said. Oh, brothers, I speak in this way because all I see is a blackish complexioned child playing on his flute. I hear only the name of Krishna, and I behold the entire world as the abode of Govinda." Wow. I humbly apologize to all of you. From today on, I will not continue with studies. I am giving you permission to study with whomever you like without fear. No word other than Krishna manifests to me. This is the true state of my mind. After speaking in this way, Mahaprabhu, with tears in his eyes, tied up his books. Wow. Finished being a professor. The Lord's students offered obeisances and said, "We also make the same resolution as you. Now that we have studied under you, what can we learn from anyone else?" Being afflicted with separation from their teacher, all the students wept and began to speak as follows. "May the explanations that we have heard from you remain in our hearts, birth after birth. Whom can we approach, and what can we study? We are quite satisfied with whatever we have learned from you." After speaking in this way, all the students offered respects to the Lord with folded hands and then tied up their books with cords. The students loudly chanted, "Hudi, Hudi!" Then the crest jewel, the twice born, began to cry as he embraced everyone. The students cried with their heads down, and they all merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss. The voices of all the students became choked. Then the Lord, Sri Sachinandana, blessed them all. If I have been the servant of Krishna for even one day, then may all of your desires be fulfilled. All of you take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, and may your mouths be filled with the names of Krishna. Constantly hear the names of Krishna. May Lord Krishna be your life and wealth. Whatever you have learned is enough. There's no need for further studies. Now let us chant the names of Krishna together. By the mercy of Krishna, let the purport of the scriptures be revealed to you. You are all my friends, birth after birth. On hearing the Lord's nectarian words, the students became filled with ecstasy. I offer my humble obeisances at the feet of those students who were sufficiently fortunate to become Lord Chaitanya's students. Know for certain that they are all eternal servants of Krishna. When Krishna himself is teaching them, how can they be anyone else? Just by seeing those who saw the Lord's scholastic pastimes, one is freed from material bondage. I am such a sinner that I did not take birth at that time. Therefore, I was deprived of the sight of those blissful pastimes. The spiritual lamentation. Still, O Lord, grant me this one favor. May your scholastic pastimes always remain in my heart. Evidence of the scholastic pastimes of the Lord of Vaikuntha is still seen throughout Nadia. Although the Vedas describe the appearance and disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, there's actually no beginning or end to his pastimes. In this way, the Lord's scholastic pastimes came to an end, and the congregational chanting of the holy names was begun. The students surrounding the Lord were choked with tears as he mercifully spoke to them. You have studied and listened for many days. Now let us chant the names of Krishna together to make everything complete. Wow. The students asked, how shall we perform Sankirtan? The son of Sachi then personally taught them to chant as follows. Okay, here's the methodology. It's coming up. All right, so I'll chant the Bengali, of course. Hare Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Shrimadhu Sudan. O Lord Hari, O Lord Krishna, I offer my obeisances to you, who are known as Hari Yadava Gopal Govinda Ram Shrimadhu Sudan. Hare Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Shrimadhu Sudan. Oh, very wonderful. The Lord then demonstrated for his students the process of kirtan by clapping his hands while chanting. So you don't need cartels. Sometimes we go to places and I said, let's have a kirtan. They said, but there's no cartels here. I said, why is kirtan dependent on cartels? You can clap, you can chant with your mouth. Kirtan means to chant the holy name. It's not dependent on instruments. I mean, you can use instruments to sort of help you keep either in tune or in rhythm, but not dependent. It's dependent upon your purity. The Lord of Kirtan personally chanted his glories as his students surrounded him and all chanted together. Absorbed in the sweet taste of his own name, the Lord rolled in the dust under its overpowering influence. The Lord repeatedly fell down here and there while crying out, chant, chant! The earth cracked under his repeated falls. On hearing the sound of the uproar, all the inhabitants of Nadia came running to the Lord's residence. All the Vaishnavas who lived nearby immediately came there when they heard the sound of the kirtan. When the devotees saw the Lord overwhelmed with ecstasy, they thought they had never experienced anything so wonderful. They became fully satisfied at heart, thinking, now kirtan has been inaugurated in the town of Nadia. Is there such rare devotion in the world? The purpose of the eyes is fulfilled by the sight of such devotion. This Vishwambara was the ultimate limit of all arrogance, yet now we have seen in him love of God that is rare for even persons like Narada. If such an arrogant person can attain such devotion, then we cannot understand the will of Krishna or what this person will become. Okay, long purport here. After a while, Lord Vishwambara regained his external consciousness, but he continually chanted the name of Krishna. Although the Lord regained his external consciousness, he did not talk of external subjects. Rather, he cried while holding the necks of all the Vaishnavas. Thereafter, all the Vaishnavas passed by the Lord and departed in great delight. Some of the students happily took the path of renunciation by following in the footsteps of the Lord. In this way, Mahaprabhu began to manifest himself, and the miseries of all the devotees were vanquished. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Thus ends our English translation of the Gaudiya Bhasha commentary on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Chapter 1, entitled The Beginning of the Lord's Manifestation and His Instructions on Krishna Sankirtana. Wow, what an amazing chapter. So, now we'll go to chapter 2, which is called The Lord's Manifestation at the House of Srivas and the Inauguration of Sankirtan. Skipping over the chapter summary, as we normally do. All glories to Gaura Chandra, who is the benefactor of the entire world. Please give your lotus feet in charity to my heart. All glories to Sri Gauranga, along with his devotees. By hearing the topics of Lord Chaitanya, one attains devotional service of the Lord. When all the devotees observed the Lord's love, they were all struck with wonder. In great satisfaction, they went to Advaita and informed him of what they had seen. The most powerful Advaita immediately understood through the influence of his devotional service. The Lord has incarnated! Hribo! Yet the truth of Advaita Acharya is difficult to understand because he sometimes reveals himself and sometimes conceals himself. When Advaita Acharya heard this news, he became fully absorbed and began to speak as follows. "O brothers, please hear me. Last night I saw something in a dream. I was not understanding well the meaning of a passage I had read in Bhagavad Gita, so I was unhappy and took rest without eating. In the dead of the night, someone came to me in a dream and said, 'Rise, Acharya, go and take your meal. I am telling you the meaning of the text that you read. Now get up, eat, and worship me.' Why are you feeling sad? You've obtained everything. Your resolution has been fulfilled. Your fasting, your worship, your tears while crying out the names of Krishna, and your vow with raised arms, all to induce the Lord's advent, have now become successful." The chanting of Krishna's names will be spread to all countries, all towns, and all houses. Wow. Yeah. So that was propagated. That devotional service that is rare for even Lord Brahma will now be available to everyone by your mercy. All the Vaishnavas will experience realizations at the house of Srivas Pandit that are rare for even Lord Brahma. Therefore, eat your meal. I am departing now, but I will come again while you are eating. When I opened my eyes, I saw this Vishwambar, but he soon disappeared from my sight. I cannot understand Krishna's mysteries, such as which form he manifests or in whom he manifests. His elder brother Vishwarup used to come and study Bhagavad Gita with me. This child Vishwambara was most enchantingly attractive. He used to come to my house to call his brother. On seeing the beauty of this child, my heart was captivated. I blessed him with the words, "May you attain devotional service to the Lord." He is from an aristocratic family, for he is the son of Nilambara Chakravarti's daughter. He is also most erudite and possesses all good qualities, so it is befitting that he has devotion to Krishna. I have become very pleased on hearing this news. All of you kindly bless him, saying, "May it be so." May the mercy of Krishna be manifest to all, and may the entire world become intoxicated by the name of Krishna. If all this is true, then everyone will come to the house of this Brahmin. Advaita Acharya roared loudly in ecstasy, and all the Vaishnavas chanted in jubilation. As they all chanted the names of Hari, Lord Krishna manifested there in the form of kirtan. Someone said, "When Nimai Pandit becomes a devotee, then we will have tumultuous kirtans." All the devotees then offered their obeisances to Advaita Acharya and left chanting the names of Hari. The Lord spoke with great respect to everyone he met. When the Lord went in the morning to take bath in the Ganges, he met many Vaishnavas on the way. As soon as the Lord saw Srivas or other devotees, he offered them obeisances, and the devotees blessed the Lord out of love. May you obtain devotion at the feet of Krishna, chant and hear the names of Krishna. My dear, if you worship Krishna, everything will be successful. And if you do not worship Krishna, then your beauty and education are useless. Krishna is the Father of the universe, and Krishna is the life and soul of everyone. Therefore, my dear, worship the lotus feet of Krishna with determination. The Lord was greatly pleased with their blessings, so he cast his merciful glance on them. All your blessings are certainly fruitful. Why would you give any other lesser benedictions? For you alone are capable of awarding devotional service to Krishna. For Krishna bestows his mercy on one who serves his servants. Very important point. Long purport. Whoop. You always teach me my duties to Lord Vishnu. This proves that I must have previously performed pious activities. Long purport. Right. I can have devotion to Krishna only by serving you. Saying this, the Lord caught hold of their feet. He carefully wrung out the water from someone's wet cloth and handed someone else his dhoti. He collected kusha grass and clay from the Ganges for someone, and sometimes he carried a basket of flowers home for someone. Although all the Vaishnavas fervently requested him to refrain from such activities, saying, "What are you doing?" Vishwambar continued to serve them. In this way, Lord Vishwambar daily acted as the servant of his own servants. What service is there that the Lord will not do for his devotees? The Lord gives up his own position for the sake of his servants. I think we should see that in the Mahabharata and other literatures too. All the scriptures declare Krishna is the friend of all. Therefore, no one is hated or neglected by Krishna. Yet Krishna gives up this quality for the sake of his devotee. The annihilation of Duryodhana and his family is proof of this. It is the nature of the devotees to serve Lord Krishna, and whatever Krishna does is for the sake of his devotees. Devotees absorbed in devotional mellows can sell Krishna. The evidence of this is Satyabhama of Dwarka. That same Lord is Gaurasundara Vishwambara. Is there a story? Oh, here's the story. I got to tell that story. The devotees of Krishna, I believe. An explanation of the second line of this verse is found in the Harivamsa Vishnu Parvat, chapter 76, as follows. Thereafter, Satyabhama Devi, who was desirous of Krishna, placed a garland on Krishna's neck and tied him to a parijata tree. After taking Krishna's permission, she then sold him to Narada. That's an amazing story. That's the same Lord as Gaurasundara Vishwambara was residing in Navadvipa in a covered form. No one could recognize their own Lord, even those for whom the Lord appeared. Let anyone who desires to worship Krishna worship his dear, auspicious devotees. Lord Gaurachandra taught everyone to serve Vaishnavas by his personal example. He did not feel shy as he carried their flower baskets and clothes. The Vaishnavas, however, respectfully caught hold of his hands in order to dissuade him. Seeing Vishwambara's humility, all the devotees continually offered him their heartfelt blessings. Worship Krishna, remember Krishna, and hear the names of Krishna. Let Krishna be the life and wealth of everyone. Please chant the name of Krishna, become his servant. May Krishna manifest within your heart. May nothing other than Krishna appear in your heart. Let all of our miseries be dispelled by you. May those fallen persons who ridicule the performance of kirtan drown in the transcendental mellows of Krishna consciousness. As you conquered the entire world with your mastery of the scriptures, you should destroy the atheists by worshiping Krishna. By your mercy, we may all become overwhelmed with bliss while dancing and chanting the names of Krishna. In this way, the devotees placed their hands on the Lord and blessed him while submitting their sorrows. In this Navadvip, my dear, the teachers all act dumb when there's an opportunity to glorify the devotional service of Krishna. My dear, all the great sannyasis, ascetics, and learned scholars that reside in Navadvip never explain that the purport of the scriptures is to glorify Krishna. Rather, they constantly engage in blasphemy. All the sinful listeners are captivated by their words, and therefore they consider us no better than straw. Therefore, dear Vishwambar, our bodies constantly burn with intense sorrow, for we never hear propagation of chanting of Krishna's name. Now Krishna has exhibited his pleasure with everyone, so he has admitted you on this path. We are confident that all the atheists will be vanquished by you. Therefore, live forever and chant the holy names of Krishna, reveal the qualities of Krishna to everyone. The Lord accepted the devotee's blessings on his head, for by the devotee's blessings, one obtains devotion to Krishna. On hearing about the devotee's distress, Lord Vishwambar desired to quickly manifest himself. The Lord said, "You are all very dear to Krishna, so whatever you say will undoubtedly happen. My life is glorious because of your words. Even death personified cannot transgress your words." Why should you bother about all these insignificant sinful atheists? Just happily chant the holy name of Krishna. The Lord cannot tolerate the suffering of his devotees. Lord Krishna always incarnates for the sake of his devotees. Now I can understand that you will induce Krishna to advent and fill the entire Navadvip with the happiness of Vaikuntha. By your mercy, the entire world will be delivered, for you will induce Krishna to incarnate. All of you, please consider me your servant and give me the benediction that you will never leave me. Vishwambar took the dust from the feet of all the devotees and they all abundantly blessed him. Thereafter all the devotees took bath in the Ganges and then returned home. The Lord also returned to his home smiling. On hearing the distress of his devotees, the Lord's anger towards the atheists increased greatly. He roared loudly, saying, "I will kill them all!" He repeatedly exclaimed, "I am he! I am he!" Wow. Sometimes he laughed, sometimes he cried, sometimes he fell unconscious to the ground, and sometimes when he saw Vishnupriya, he rushed forward to beat her. Oh my God. In this way, the Lord was fully absorbed in the mood of Vishnu, yet Mother Sachi could not understand whether or not he was diseased. Sachi did not know anything other than affection for her son. She told everyone about his behavior. "Providence has taken away my husband and sons, only this one remains, and I can understand the state of his mind. Sometimes he laughs, sometimes he cries, and sometimes he falls unconscious. He often talks to himself. Sometimes he says, 'I will tear off the heads of the atheists.' Sometimes he climbs a tree and sits on a branch. Keeping his eyes shut, he then sometimes falls to the ground. He gnashes his teeth, tucks up his loin cloth like a wrestler, and falls to the ground, unable to utter a word." People had never seen or heard about such transformations of ecstatic love for Krishna. Thinking that it was madness, they said he should be bound. Those who came to see the Lord after hearing from Mother Sachi simply laughed and rushed away, thinking that he was suffering from insanity. They quickly took Mother Sachi to the side and tried to pacify her, saying, "It is some previous derangement that has reappeared." Someone said, "Oh, Thakurani, you are so ignorant. Why do you want to ask further about his condition? Some previous madness has again appeared in his body. Tie his 2 legs and keep him inside the house. Give him green coconut water to drink until his madness is cured." Someone else said, "What can such weak medicine do? His disease will be cured only if you smear some medicated ghee on him. Apply medicated oil on his head and then bathe him. Continue in this way until the disease subsides." The most magnanimous Sachi is the mother of the universe. She would carefully follow everyone's advice. Mother Sachi was overwhelmed with anxiety and did not know what to do, so she took shelter of Govinda with her body, speech, and mind. She then sent a messenger to the houses of all the Vaishnavas headed by Srivas to inform them of the situation. One day Srivas Pandit went there, and the Lord immediately got up and offered him obeisances. On seeing a devotee, the Lord's devotional sentiments increased. His hair stood on end. He shed tears. He shivered, and his attachment for the Lord was enhanced. At that time, the Lord was circumambulating Tulasi, but on seeing a devotee, he immediately fell unconscious. After a while, the Lord regained external consciousness and began to cry. He shivered so intensely that he was unable to remain still. When Srivas Pandit saw this wonderful sight, he thought, "Who calls this madness? This is the highest state of devotion." So this is called Mahabhava. On regaining his external consciousness, the Lord asked Srivas Pandit, "What do you think of my behavior?" Someone suggested that I should be bound up because of my insanity. "Oh, Pandit, what do you feel about me?" Srivas Pandit smiled and said, "Your madness is good. I also want the same kind of madness that you have. I see the highest devotional symptoms in your body. Lord Krishna has bestowed his mercy on you." When the Lord heard this from Srivas, he embraced him in great happiness. "Everyone concluded that I was afflicted with madness, but you alone have concluded otherwise. Therefore, today I am greatly obliged to you. If you had also concluded that I was insane, then I would have drowned myself in the Ganga today." Srivas Pandit said, "The symptoms of devotional service that you display are desired by personalities such as Brahma, Shiva, and Shanaka." So, of course, the symptoms that are being described are the highest limit of what's called Vyabhachari Bhava. Vyabhachari are the intermittent ecstasies that are unpredictable, that take over one, Sanchari, and move throughout one's body. And so the highest ecstasy is actually Mahabhav, Aniruddha Mahabhav. They're only exhibited by Srimati Radharani and her associates. So, anyway, so what a wonderful story. Okay, so now we will stop sharing and allow you all, fortunate souls who have heard this so far, to ask questions. Let me just go through this unmute process. Let's see. You are now officially allowed to unmute yourself or ask questions or raise your hand and be called on. Does anyone have any questions? Hold on a second.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my
Okay.
humble obeisances.
Okay, you're first, and then Rihanna is next. Okay. So, is that you, Nanda Gopal? Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj. So my question
Did
is,
you,
I have
did
two
you get
questions, but
did
I'll
you get the device to make your hair stand in yet?
it's I have placed an Amazon order. It should be here overnight.
Okay. Can't wait to see it. Okay, so
My question is, in the devotees who are relatively early in the Krishna consciousness journey,
yeah,
seems like Chaitanya Bhagavat and particularly Chaitanya Charitamrita is very high level.
advanced.
So my question is that in my state or early stages, what should we be learning from these dealings of Mahaprabhu and then gradually basically imbibing in Krishna consciousness? So what should we be learning?
We can learn that by serving the Vaishnava, that's what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us, that one gets Krishna consciousness, and also about the holy name. And also we learn what's in store for us in the future. Because these topics about all these ecstasies are also mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion by Srila Prabhupada. You know, and Nectar of Devotion is one of the basic books that we learn about. The the bhavas, which I've described previously in these classes, Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattviga Bhava, uh, Vyabhachari Bhava, Anubhava, Sthai Bhava. So this is actually all basic information, just exhibited in terms of the narration of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. This is not something, I mean, the knowledge is advanced knowledge, but it's not something that's not presented to people, even in the beginning. If they read Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada had us distribute Nectar of Devotion publicly. But what we can learn to apply in our own lives is, first of all, this is what we have to look forward to. Of course, not in the same level that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing,
Mm.
but this sort of ecstasy, we have this happiness in Krishna consciousness we have to look forward to, and the disinterested material things. Of course, you shouldn't become too disinterested in material things because you'll lose your job then. But anyway, so
Mm.
this detachment. I mean that, like Lord Chaitanya, according to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharta Eka Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Surya Dari Kripam Buddhir Yastvam Ham Prabhajay. That Lord Chaitanya came to teach us detachment from this material world and Vairagya and also knowledge of Krishna. So this is all part of the Sambandha process, Sambandha and Prayojana actually. Uh, Sambandha, Abhideyam, Prayojana is being taught by Lord Chaitanya. The whole philosophy is being taught in terms of these stories about Lord Chaitanya. Not only are there actually nectar pastimes, but they're didactic for us, which means they're teaching us all sorts of different things, important aspects of Sambandha. Who is Krishna? What is the soul? What is the material energy? Etc. What is the spiritual energy? Abhideya, how to reach that goal, which is, Lord Chaitanya serving the Vaishnavas, which is an important thing to serve Vaishnavas, to follow the directions of Vaishnavas. And then the goal, the prayojana, the ecstasies he's experiencing, and the love of Krishna, and the renunciation of this world. So, yeah, there's a lot of things to learn. I think every single one of those things to learn, at least theoretically for us,
Mm.
if not that we should be rolling on the ground right now. This would be nice. We could roll on the ground a little bit. When we take the devotees to Govardhan, we actually have everybody at a particular point. We have everybody roll on the ground.
Sure.
To get the dust. Raj, as they say, Raj. All right, it's a good question. So next question is Rihanna. You have a question?
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my obeisances. So I had a question asked to me by a friend who wanted to know, how do we water the root? Speaking of the symbolism that Krishna is the root from which everything else which is then satisfied.
Yeah. How do we water the root of the tree? We try to please Krishna. And actually, the best way to please Krishna is to please his devotees, and by helping bring others to Krishna consciousness, or assisting in the Krishna consciousness movement, becoming a servant of Krishna and Krishna's devotees, and be part of this movement. The purpose of the movement is to move and bring more people to Krishna consciousness. That's the best way to water it. And of course, by hearing and chanting, that's the direct meaning. Hearing and chanting is the direct way to water the creeper of devotion. So the creeper of devotion pierces through the coverings of the material world and goes to the spiritual world. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev.
Okay. So next question was Brajalila. Why did he want to beat Vishnupriya? He was just showing madness. He didn't actually beat Vishnupriya. He would just get angry, but he wouldn't hurt anybody. He wouldn't hurt anybody. It was just like anybody was there. It was not specifically Vishnupriya, and he didn't beat his wife. Lord Chaitanya never beat his wife. And of course, he stopped himself. He just was angry and was just like, oh my God, what's happening? That was the perception, not that he actually wanted to beat her. Okay, next question. Srivas Pandit seems to know about Mahabhava manifestation and how Brahman Shiva desires. How interesting at that time it seems Srivas Pandit was not aware Mahaprabhu was directly Radha Krishna. That's right. Because Srivas Pandit was also under the influence of Yogamaya. Srivas Pandit is Narada Muni, and normally Narada Muni would be able to recognize his Lord. But when Krishna doesn't want to be recognized, the same thing with Advaitacharya. Advaitacharya was not recognizing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was before he manifested his ecstasies. Advaitacharya was not recognizing either, and Advaitacharya is Mahavishnu. Imagine Mahavishnu not recognizing himself. So this is all Yogamaya, the acts of Yogamaya. So pretty amazing pastimes. So so it's really important to understand he didn't really want to be Vishnupriya. It was just that was the perception, and Lord Chaitanya would never beat his eternal consort. I mean, he's eternally connected to her. Even after he took sannyas, he's eternally connected. He would appear to her. Okay, on that happy note, again, one announcement before we sign off. I'm not sure if tomorrow we're going to be giving this class, or something maybe an hour later, because tomorrow we are going to be at our temple or at home program in Orlando, Florida. Don't worry, I'm not going to Disneyland or Disney World. So tomorrow, anyway, we'll send out a notice like I normally do, when at least the home program will be online, maybe a little later. Okay, on that happy note, thank you all for joining us. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.